Claiming the Victory, Chapter 4. 3 weeks later, I showed up to the Maverick County Fairgrounds in Rayborn on the Midway. This was the huge field of grass where they set up the rides during the county fair. My first day was a mess. I was late, and there was a softball game going on which encroached on the practice area. 4 separate divisions were there to begin training. Oddly enough, I just happened to see Jimmy there. I wanted to ask him what he was doing in Rayborn, but I didn't have time to stop. He was sitting at the top of the bleachers with his parents attending the softball game. I would imagine he was watching one of his family members play. He then turned to look at me and shook his head, knowing that I was late and what a clown I was. I ran past the softball game. You could see all 4 divisions out in the practice field. I asked the nearest kid where the Pee Wee division was. He pointed out to the furthest spot in the back corner. The midget and junior midget divisions had most of the practice field close to the parking lot. I jogged about 100 yards and caught sight of a big green windbreaker. I slowed my jog and approached head coach Onesi, towering over me like a stone monolith. This was the man I needed to impress, and I was late on my first day. I looked up at him. "I'm Thomas Hamilton. I'm here for the Pee Wee team." Onesi's head was turned, carefully studying the formation of his players before him. He looked over and down at me. He spoke in his hoarse voice. "Okay, you're 10 minutes late." He looks at his watch. "Tell you what, Sweet Pea, why don't you take a run for me?" Onesi turns and points about 70 yards across the western fence line. "You see that light pole? Run to it, then turn around. Then around that backstop along the edge of the fence line and fall into formation." I turned and took off running for the light pole. I ran around the backstop along the northern fence line and back to the team. As soon as I found my spot in formation, I did what I could to keep up with the calisthenics. This was nothing like any physical training that I've ever been part of before. Intuition told me that I'd signed up for something more than merely a game. I wore a t-shirt, shorts, and athletic shoes. You quickly spot all the veterans up front. They each had sleeves of their t-shirts cut off. and their last names written across their backs with black felt-tip markers. Loud and angry letters scrawled in permanent ink. I couldn't wait to get home and destroy one of my own shirts. A feeling grew deep inside that this was more than I'd imagined. I'd failed to define it at that moment, but I felt that I'd walked into something far more powerful than myself, at least in that pocket of time. I felt good. It felt good, and it felt right, and that was all I needed to know. Onesi was accompanied by assistant coach Jerry Brandt Sr., whose son Jerry Onesi was accompanied by assistant coach Jerry Branson Sr., whose son Jerry Branson Jr. was on the team. Onesi called out each particular exercise, which included running in place, knees up, drop to the ground, get back up, jumping jacks, and burpees. Because I was late, I had missed the stretch routine. Us rookies in back watched the veterans up front and struggled to match their moves. They executed each movement with violence on their faces and excellence in their form, every maneuver swift and fierce. Nothing was made easy in training. Other coaches throughout Northern California were soft on their players. They let them do whatever they wanted on the sidelines, like wander around with their helmets off and drink all the water they wanted. But not Onesi. Not once did he ever let us anywhere near our comfort zone. The formation was then ordered to drop down on our backs onto the sun-hardened field. The cut, dry grass pricked the back of my neck and legs like needles. I was then introduced to the 6-inch leg lifts. Coach Bronson also walks the formation, mostly working us rookies. 6 inches! I hear them shout at another kid. 6 inches! 6! Yes, the infamous 6-inch leg lifts. You lay on your back, lift your heels 6 inches from the ground, and keep them there until told to move. The coaches keep yelling 6 inches for a reason. Besides dropping your heels to the ground, the tendency is to lift your feet higher. This relieves stress on your abdomen and tendons connecting your thigh muscles to your hip. The first few seconds aren't so bad, but it quickly gets more difficult and eventually torturous. 6 inches, because this is the precise measurement for maximum suffering. 6 inches, Clark! Not 6 feet! Bronson screams at another kid. There's something to be said about grown men shouting commands at your face while you're lying on your back performing isometrics. We never got shouted at by our PE teachers nor Little League coaches. Our heels remain 6 inches from the ground. All you see is mostly sky until you look over to your sides, watching the other new kids suffer next to you. You can also look forward beyond your feet and see veterans up front. You can't see the coaches, but you'll suddenly hear their voices erupt from somewhere above. You can hear Coach Bronson continue to yell at us new guys. Then you hear Onesi low, steady grunt. Make it hurt! Make it hurt! Make it hurt! I hear growling coming from the front of the formation. I strain my neck to look forward. The kid with blades written across his back is beating his own abdomen with his fists, going nuts like he was really trying to hurt himself. Meanwhile, Onesi still slowly, ever easily, walking along the edge of the formation. Make it hurt! Make it hurt! Make it hurt! Now all the veterans are growling and beating their abs with their fists. I want to join in on this primal ritual, but I was still too docile and unaware of myself. I just kept looking up at the sky. My abdomen was on fire. My heels crashed to the grass, but I quickly swung them back up before I was spotted. I came here today to show these people what kind of kid from the mountain could do. I was confident in my own athletic abilities. However, I soon discovered that there was more work ahead. I looked around and saw the other FNGs suffering, some of them in worse shape, nearly convulsing in muscular pain, heels crashing to the ground and back up again in sloppy form. You hear Onesi's voice. Make it hurt! Make it hurt! Make it hurt! He scans his recruits. He slowly moves along the edge of the formation, studying our progress. All right, girls, on your feet! Onesi, eyes concealed behind darkened bifocals. Give me 25 burpees, ladies! The beloved burpee. It was Onesi's favorite hand-me-down. He handed them out like $5 bills. It was his main form of discipline when we screwed up. This was my first experience with the exercise. From a standing position, you squat down, hands flat on the ground. Send your legs and feet rearward, directly behind you in a push-up position. Bring your feet back up, bring your feet back in and stand up. That's one burpee. We hammer out 25 of them, then perform more calisthenics. We are then ordered to run another lap around the edge of the field, to the light pole, around the backstop, along the north fence line and back. We return. We are to form a line. The veterans start yelling at us rookies. Come on, line up! Hurry up! Let's go! Let's go! Joe Marcioni was right next to me, hollering at the others to get in line. We now perform 50-yard wind sprints. In football, you get down in a 3-point stance. Coach Onesi sounds off, then blows the whistle. You sprint as fast as you can. You reach a line 50 yards away where Coach Branson is waiting. He then sounds off. Down! Set! He blows a whistle. You spring off the line, and it's a foot race back to where you started. You turn around, get down in a 3-point stance. Coach Onesi sounds off, blows his whistle, and you run 50 yards to the line. If 6-inch leg lifts and burpees don't kill you, 50-yard wind sprints will. Then there's the hill. Self-explanatory. Just wind sprints up a hill. Good luck on your way back down when your legs turn to jelly. We spend weeks training, running, and being yelled at. One person you never want to see at practice is the guest trainer. Yes, the guest trainer. Coach Onesi killed us on the practice field, yes, but you wanted nothing to do with a guest trainer. Our first experience was one man no one bothered to introduce. Stocky build, thick eyeglasses, red, sun-cooked face. He was one step more psychotic than Onesi and Branson and only communicated to us through screaming commands and insults. During the second week of training, we were marched over the James Field across the highway. They took us to a deserted baseball diamond. The grass was half overtaken by star thistle. We were ordered to get down on all fours and perform crab walks across the abandoned field. It's like wind sprints, but you traverse the turf on hands and feet like an animal. Get down on all fours, you pieces of shit! He was a menacing individual. Get down! I want to see your asses fly across this patch on all fours. I want to see crab walks. Let's go! Move! To the other side! To the fence, you fucking cunts! The first few laps you get on your hands, poked and cut up from the needles of star thistle and sharp, tiny little thorns from the other weed species. Your muscles and your shoulders start to give out and your wrists feel like they're going to pop open. He ran us until half the team collapsed from exhaustion. This is one of the parts where some of us boys wound up in tears. This exercise, a form of torture, is taxing on the child's body. An 11-year-old, that is. It took us time to recover. Many players had their fingers clutched into the chain-link fence, holding themselves up and gasping for breath. A few guys fully collapsed onto the torrid remains of a forgotten arena floor. I was pretty banged up myself. It was almost as fun as my sparring buddy at home. Look at you guys, guest trainer says. I've never seen so many goddamn pussy-ass mother... You guys are going to suit up and go onto the field? Are you kidding me? I'm mostly talking about you new guys. He walks up and squats down where Myers has crashed to the base of the chain link. Do you have any idea whatsoever that awaits you? He stands up to address the rest of the team. Over the following 18 weeks, you will be suiting up and meeting with the best in Northern California. And some of the best across the entire state. He lets his statement sink in. If you think tonight was tough, I got a bit of hard news for you, friends. We have seen what is coming, and you are not going to like it. Your training is going to need to be stepped up by a number of decimals if you are going to accomplish anything in the coming months. We slowly got onto our feet and prepared for our march back to the midway. I watched from the distance as the guest trainer spoke with Onesi before our return. At the end of each practice, we huddle up around Coach Onesi. All right, that was some good hustle. You've shown a lot of promise over the past few weeks. You still need work, but we're getting there. Get home, get some sleep, and do homework. Do your homework. See you on Wednesday, 1800 hours. Chapter 4.